Hello and welcome back to 10 Minute Enterprise. Today we're going to be setting up a S2D cluster with 4 nodes, and I've gone ahead and done a little bit of pre-work here. I just want to show you exactly what I've done. I have got the nodes configured to join to the domain, so they're on our FarTech domain. I have gone ahead and set their IP addresses to the 192.168.1.x subnet that we set up earlier. Gateway is still the same. I have pointed the DNS server to the DC in the environment, so that's all good to go. And I've already configured node 2, 3, and 4. I just wanted to show you on node 1 here what I did to configure those. It's pretty easy. So here we go. I'm going to come over here to PowerShell, and we're going to run this command get-net adapter, and it's going to give us our virtual machines actual Ethernet devices, Ethernet and Ethernet 2, and we're going to create a set team. So we're going to say new-vm switch. Switch. There we go. We're going to give it a name. Converged switch. We're going to say management OS. There it is, allow management OS true. And we're going to add our network adapters. So Ethernet 2. All right, I believe, oh, and we're going to enable IOV. And here we go, should be just about done. All right, and there it is, our converged switch, type external teamed interface. And now we need to add some virtual NICs to it for our storage. So we're gonna say add VMnet adapter, name SMB1, and we're gonna put it on management OS, and we're going to say the switch name is converged switch. And I believe that's all we need. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to reuse this for SMB2. All right, and we can type exit for now. All right, so if we come in here to our network adapters, there's our original 2 adapters, Ethernet and Ethernet 2. They have been teamed in our set team. Here is our management NIC, and here's SMB1 and SMB2. Now we're going to add SMB1 and 2's IP addresses to this statically because we want them to be static. We're going to give them 192.168.11.21. You don't need a gateway. And we don't need DNS on these. Okay. We're going to hit OK. And actually, before we hit that, we're going to go configure advanced. We're going to change this to jumbo packet enabled at 9014. And we're going to enable network direct RDMA as well. So it's just easier to do. You can do it through PowerShell if you really want to, but it's just easier for me in here because it's quick. And configure advanced jumbo 9000 RDMA enabled. All right, and now we're coming here to properties, set our IP address 21. Okay, now those are good. And this, if you notice, when we created our set team, we used the switch that said allow management OS. If you notice, this has our IP address that we had on Ethernet 1 already set to it. DNS is already set, so everything's good there. We don't have to change anything. Okay, that's done. Now I have gone ahead and installed the Hyper-V role and the failover cluster role. There's currently nothing installed on this server for Hyper-V. There's not even standard vSwitch. I just actually skipped all of it and just said install the role. This is the converged switch that we just created. And if you notice, you can't change any of the settings here in the GUI. You have to change the settings for this actually in PowerShell. SRIOV is enabled though, so we're good there. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So we got that done. Let's go over here, right click, go to PowerShell with admin, and we're going to come over here to administrative tools, and we're going to go to failover cluster manager. Check this box because I don't want to see this right now. All right, so here's our failover cluster manager. We're going to create a cluster. And so next, we're going to enter our server names. S2D 1, S2D 2, S2D 3, S2D 4. And say next. We're going to skip the validation test for now, but you do need to run them at some point, so make sure that you do get those set up. I'm going to call it FT cluster, and we're going to give it the IP of 1.20. Next, we're going to uncheck this box that says add all eligible storage to the cluster because we don't want to add anything yet. We're going to save that for S2D. So we're going to go ahead and hit next. It's going to come up here and configure everything. Should just take a couple of minutes. Okay, and we have our cluster created. Go ahead and hit finish. All right, so here's our cluster. Currently we have no roles installed. We have our 4 nodes. They're all up status, that looks good. We're gonna look at disks. We have none because we haven't enabled S2D. We have no storage pools again. We are going to take a look at networks here. We do have cluster network 1. It's got our Ethernet in here. This is our management network. It's also where our clients are going to communicate out. We have cluster network 2, which is SMB1 for us. And we have cluster network 3, which is SMB2. All right, we should be good to go to enable S2D. Now on each of these nodes, I have 4 SSDs and 4 HDDs. So we should be able to set up some caching. We're going to run enable, oops, I might not spell it right, enable cluster S2D, and we're going to run this special command here, collect performance history. We're going to set this to false currently. Because we're running in a virtualized environment, a nested virtualized environment, we need to run this because if we don't, it'll change the SSDs into hard drives and we won't be able to do any type of caching. So I'm going to run this command. If this is a physical host that you're running these on, actually deploying physical hardware, you don't need to run this. You can, it's not going to hurt anything. And once we run this, we can actually turn performance history back on afterwards. We're just going to do this just to start with. So, and we're going to hit that, select yes, and let this finish. And when it's done, I will resume the video. Okay, so let's run get dash storage pool since it's done now. Hey, there's our storage pool. And we don't have any virtual disks yet, but we will add those here momentarily. All right, and here if we take a look at Failover Cluster Manager is our cluster pool. And it does seem to have all of our disks in here. And we have no virtual disk yet, but we are going to make one. We're going to come back in here and we're going to run a command that is just, we're going to run the command start cluster performance history. Okay, Now we can exit this. Now if we wait just a couple of minutes here, we should see a virtual disk that says cluster performance history show up. So just gonna give it a little bit here. Shouldn't take very long at all. Okay, and here is our first virtual disk. Cluster performance history. It's almost 16 gigs. This is going to store all of our performance history for the cluster. It's not a requirement. You can always disable it by running stop-cluster performance history. And then if you add the parameter delete history, it'll actually delete all the records. If it ever gets corrupted and you need to rebuild it, you can just delete it, stop that cluster performance history, run the delete, and then start it again, and it will rebuild the entire virtual disk and make you a new one and start collecting data again. So, okay. Now we're going to move on to actually adding a virtual disk that we can store things on. Rather than go in here, we're going to go to Pools, right-click, we're going to say New Virtual Disk. Just going to look at the pool information here. Okay, that was the right one. Click Next. Let's say VM. How about just VMs? Alright, so if you notice, we have a performance tier and a capacity tier. Free space, we have 300 gigs here, and we have 774 gigs of capacity. I'm going to go ahead and specify 150 on the performance tier and 500 on the capacity tier. Resiliency type is a three-way mirror for our performance, and resiliency is a dual parity on our capacity tier. So virtual disk size total is going to be 650 gigs. We should be good, so we'll go ahead and hit Next and Create. And it's going to go ahead and do this for us. Alright, and if we leave this box checked that says Create a Volume when this wizard closes, we'll get the new volume wizard. We'll go ahead and click Next. There's our disk here, 650 gigs. Next. Next. We're not going to assign it a drive letter because it's going to be a CSV in just a minute anyway, so we don't need that. We're going to hit Next. Give it a new name just because. And we're going to hit Next and Create. And just about there. All right, it's done. Now if we come back here to disks, there is our new disk. Now it's still not a CSV, so we need to right click on it and say add to cluster shared volumes. And there it is. Now it's on S2D node 4 here, and it is ready for something to be stored on it. If we come in here and check in our C drive, under this PC, C, cluster storage, there's our stuff, there's our folder. Alright, we are good to start installing roles. I think that'll be in our next video. We'll install just a couple of VMs. We're also going to install a Windows 10 client, and we're going to install Windows Admin Center so we can manage our cluster a little easier than with Failover Cluster Manager. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Check back for part 2 of our S2D cluster, and stay safe. Thanks. Bye.